What's going on, people? It is A.D. Robinson here, and we're here to talk to you about business and financial literacy. So, as you all may know, that I came from the banking industry, and I have a special guest today who actually trained me in the banking industry. Miss Noelle Carpenter, how are you today?
Okay.
Good. So I had to bring you on because I know that you've been in the banking industry for how long?
10 years.
10 years? Man, that's you've been in the banking industry longer than some people been married.
Right.
Well, that's what's up, man. So let's just go ahead and kick it off. You guys are in for a treat because you have a lot of knowledge. I actually didn't know what to talk about today because we can talk about numerous of things when it comes to financial literacy and banking 101. So I just narrowed it down to, 3, I guess, conversational piece, and we can just go from there. That's cool?
Sure.
Cool. So one of the questions I have is, okay, so 10 years, I know you work with a lot of clients. I know when we was at, the WF, I don't know, the WF, that he was a business banker. He worked with a lot of high income clients, and he worked with average clients as well. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions I have, just for my viewers out there who's, just taking a step to building wealth, or, just want to know what it takes to build wealth is, what is the significant difference between your average client, small business owner clients, and your wealthy clients? Is there a significant difference between those?
There are, from a comparison and contrast standpoint, mm-hmm. Education, of course,
right.
As far as people who have money, people who don't have money, mm-hmm. Credit. From that aspect of it,
right.
I've seen where everybody needs education.
Oh, okay.
From the aspect of how they get to where they are, mm-hmm. They all have a different mindset. So from an example of someone who's on the wealthy side, for example,
right.
Their mindset is, I might reach out to do more things to educate myself around some of the different things, like how can I grow my money?
Right.
So they may reach out and do different, things like Googling how to invest in the stock market,
right.
Just some other ways to grow your money, CDs, things like that, opposed to letting their money sit there.
Right.
Now, a person who doesn't have enough money to work with mm-hmm. would have to have that discipline in order to even save to get to a point where they can grow their money.
Right.
So the mindset of spending now versus let me think about planning for later mm-hmm. is pretty much, the difference between the two parties. However, everyone can be educated.
So there's like stages to it. First, if you don't have enough, you have to save money.
Absolutely.
So that you can invest money. And then in order to invest, you just don't jump out there, you educate yourself. Right.
Or if you don't have the education, then of course you can talk to somebody who is educated. Like, for me, about a couple years ago, of course, I started a 401k a year after I started working for the bank,
right.
And I just knew, free money makes sense to me. So if they can match this amount of money, it's great support to the stock market. Well, this was back in 2008 when the stock market was down. Look at it today.
Right.
So for people who are able to pour money into that, mm-hmm. Now, of course, with pensions being gone, you have 401k matches. Plus, had you invested in the S&P 500 and some of these other companies that are hot today,
right.
You would have, made a lot more money just over time, and that's just from an investment standpoint.
That's true. So you invested in 2008? Is that when you got? So that was a lot of discounted companies. Oh, so you might be slick rich and not telling me right now. That's cool.
But there's a lot of things that you can learn over the years.
Right.
As far as with the 401k aspect, that functions a little bit differently because it's with your company.
Right.
But then you have where you can invest in different companies, whether it be mutual funds, where there's multiple companies, and basically what you're doing there is you're taking your money to say, okay, this is my risk level: medium, moderate, high.
Right.
I want to make a little, lose a little.
Okay.
Or I want to risk a lot or lose a lot.
Right.
So, but nevertheless, they always teach you from a financial advising standpoint, you at least want to have 6 months in reserve of whatever your total expenses
that
are.
Makes sense, right.
And then from there, whatever extra money you have is what you should start to invest.
So even if you don't have enough money, it makes sense to start practicing, because Absolutely. Even when you start investing, you still have to have that discipline to have the reserves, right?
Correct.
Right. So it's better to start self-discipline like right now.
Yeah, because you got to start small before you can get big. I want to.
Oh yeah, all about scriptures. He that is faithful, is faithful much. I know that's
wisdom comes from God for sure.
Right.
So there's this one scripture that I wanted to share. It talked about
and self-discipline is one of the fruits of the spirit too.
Absolutely.
That's why I admire Warren Buffett. Why you pull that up, because if you listen to him talk, I don't know what his beliefs are, but it has a lot to do with being patient, self-discipline, and those are the fruits of the spirit, of course. So, yeah.
Okay, guys. So I have a couple scriptures for you. Okay, that's pertinent to basically what we're talking about.
Right.
So Proverbs 22:7 basically talks about. It says, "Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is the servant to the lender." Mm-hmm. So a lot of wealthy people try to get away from borrowing.
Right.
They save up their own money to do what it is that they need to do. Therefore, they owe no one.
So they put in the words and
exactly. They feel like if I don't have the money, I'm not buying it. I'm going to wait. Whereas you have the person who says, "Oh, if I can borrow it, I'll pay it back." Mm-hmm. And then you might get yourself in a situation where you can't because now you're above your means.
Right.
So that's one nugget, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Another one also in Proverbs 21:20, it says, "The wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get." So again, going back to the mindset of spending right now versus planning for the future.
Now I got some areas that I need to tighten up.
Don't we all? Absolutely.
That's why the word is important.
Absolutely.
Actually, we talked about that in our Christ First Financial Study too. Mm-hmm. Some of those scriptures.
And
it's also one. It's in the New Testament that says. Don't be a slave to men because it's already purchased at a cost.
Yeah, you should always pay your debtors, and that's a principle that the Bible teaches within itself.
Right.
And so moving around to the credit aspect of it, credit is basically your character. Right. And so God always teaches us to pay our debtors.
True.
When you don't pay your debtors, one is of course a sin against God, but outside of that, you're already outside of the will of God. And so with that being said, you're on the end of I can't really grow because now I'm having to fix what I messed up.
Yeah, and I say that you're on the enemy's turf when you're outside of the will of God.
Absolutely.
Though we have grace, but some things can be some things can happen because you are outside of the will. So it's better to put in practice some of these actions that the good books speak about.
I couldn't find the scripture I was looking for, but you guys can look it up later if you like. But basically it talks about how, from a wealth standpoint, that you can't be hasty when it comes to acquiring wealth because it's not going to happen that fast. You have people who are want to get rich overnight, basically, so to speak. Right. But God is a king, and he basically, it's his good pleasure to give his kids everything. Right. So it's, you have to plan, and it's day by day, to acquire wealth, little by little.
I know exactly. That's what it says in that scripture. Yeah. As a proverb, gathered little by little. Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that mindset is huge because...
Man, you know what? And I posed this question on Facebook, on my Facebook page. I said that if you had an opportunity to receive $1 million, would you want it in a lump sum or would you want it month by month in a check throughout a year? And a lot of people put lump sum because they want something instant, that's instant gratification. True. But if we have, again, that self-discipline to think about gathering or accumulating wealth, step by step, little by little, that I guess that helps us or allow us to work on our patience and build character, because we, in the end, we still gonna need it, especially when we're making big decisions with big sums of money, you know, so it makes sense. That's what I do. Is gonna get into the Bible and deal with you, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, but in all honesty, I was thinking about a question the other day. Well, actually, a couple of days ago when you just mentioned with the million and everything, because I mean, even if you got a lump sum, for example, it's the discipline of the person more so. And so there was a poll where it said if you have, let's say, America, let's use America because we have the middle class, low class, high class. Okay? if you gave everyone the same amount of money, and some countries do this because they're not a democracy.
Right.
So some countries you get paid the same amount of money regardless of what you do. You could be a doctor, a teacher, a janitor, it doesn't matter. You get paid the same amount of money because it's government control.
Right.
But from an aspect of, let's say everybody had the same amount of money. Well, those who are poor today will still be poor. Those who are middle class today will be middle class, and those who are wealthy today will be right back in the same situation that they're in today. Because it's not about like the material aspect, it's about, I mean, and again, going back to the Bible, you had the men with the talents.
Right.
And so God gave them talents. One buried their talent.
Right.
Because, I don't want to, whatever.
Right.
And some people, it's how they see money. Because there's nothing corrupt about money itself. It's the person's heart and their love for money that corrupts them.
Right.
But, I mean, even from the aspect of being wealthy, God wants to propagate the gospel, and you have to have money to do that.
That's true.
So look at Job, look at Christ. I mean, all these different people who were very wealthy, who had cattle and money, and because God said, "Given should be given unto you," and it's His will that we should prosper and be in good health. The Bible warns about when, God basically prospers you.
Right.
He reminds you not to forget Him.
Right.
And because the tendency of man basically is to go after riches and things like that. And so, but God says if you seek first the kingdom, all these things will be added. Because He wants you to have a heart to love Him and to seek Him.
Right.
But He'll give you all these things. Because what if I told you the value of money would change tomorrow and it would be worth nothing? Then that $1 million that you had is worth nothing.
Exactly. But to become $1 million person, that's different.
Right. So the character behind the wealth aspect, of course, God has to put certain things in you. And He can just say tomorrow, you know what, I'm going to open this door for you that you don't deserve. Right. But I need you here because my kingdom, whatever the case may be.
See, that's wise. Tony Robbins, he said something, and it stuck with me. I didn't catch on until like years later. Going back to the scriptures, he said, it's okay to have resources, but it's better to be resourceful, full of resources. Just having the knowledge, the wisdom, the heart.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because if you look at people, like, say for instance, it's this example I gave. You're familiar with East Lake area, right?
A little bit.
East Lake, okay. So back in the day, it was, of course, the hood or whatnot. But I think a year before Tiger Woods came to play in that golf course, they started doing restructuring. They started they started building stuff around, that area just so that Tiger Woods can come and play. And I'm thinking about, look at how much value one person added to a city just by being valuable. Exactly. Because if you're valuable, then you're able to add value, and that makes you valuable. So being a $1 million person is better for me than having the resources, because at the end of the day, everything in here will manifest itself.
And it's about building wealth and being able to grow. Because in all honesty, you can have a person who makes $40,000 a year who can basically save and become wealthy.
Right.
Now, it's not all about just the saving aspect of it, because you do want to be free to give to God. And so you can have people who have money saved up, but they never give to God.
Right, that's true.
And now, really, your heart is that not one of giving, but your heart is more so that of I'm stingy, and so I want to save all that I have because. And then, there were even stories in the Bible about that too.
That's still.
So it's really about the heart more so than anything else, and that's just from the Christian aspect of it. But from the non-Christian aspect of it, it's more so just about discipline, mindset, and willingness. Because a person, even look at society, you have a person who is not willing to work because they think they're above the workforce.
Right.
With that being said, okay, well, you don't have the endurance and due diligence, you know what I'm saying, to work hard. Small business owners don't think like that. Most of the small business owners are the ones that are wealthy because they have a different mindset. Right. They're willing to get out there, and if they fail, they know I'm not eating today if I don't get out there and work.
That's
the Bible says the man that don't work don't eat.
Don't eat.
So some people don't think like that, and they're just like, you owe me everything, entitlement. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which, in all honesty, for me, it was easier working with small business owners throughout, all the different groups of people that I work with.
Because they get it.
But I was able to educate everybody. So from the education aspect of this is what you need to do, from like a person, some of the people who I work with who maybe had challenges with their credit, I'm like, well, you need to pay what you owe.
True.
You can't expect to not. And then I heard people say, oh, well, you know, if you wait 7 years, it'll drop off.
Right.
Yeah, but you haven't changed.
Yeah.
So it's going to start over. People say, oh, I'm going to file bankruptcy.
And you'll be in the same
cycle because it's who you are.
That's true.
And that has to change. And if it doesn't, you're going to be in the same situation.
They be more bankers like you, man. Man, for real.
But that's true, though.
You maybe want to get back in the industry. Nah.
That's true. They think it's going to tell them part-time. Yeah, no.
Man, that was rich.
But seriously, yeah.
It's something you was talking about, the saving aspect, because it's not just about saving alone, because that's what the man with the one talent did. He dug and
he was like, this is all I got. This is the only $1 million I got. Let me go ahead and bank that,
put it in
and save it for myself.
And the other guys, if you notice, the master said they traded. They traded their talent. And they did it for him. And they said, hey, you gave me 5, I got you 5 more.
Exactly.
And the key point is they did it for him. But then the guy with one talent, like, well, I knew that you were going to collect something that you didn't work for.
That's not work ethic. So you can even see going back then, look at the work ethic.
Right.
You have a person who's like, oh, this is all I'm going to ever have. Let me go ahead and blow it because I got to live.
Right.
And then you have those who say, I have generations coming behind me, and I need to save for the future. Because there could be a situation where, whatever, I lose my job or this, that, and the other. So I need to save what I have now. So they take a portion of it and they put it away until they build wealth.
That's true. Man, that's rich. That's it.
Yeah.
So I advise you all to, just talk to your bank, have a conversation. Hopefully you get one as knowledgeable, and then you
I'm
have
passionate about it too. So
then you have
then
you have the biblical aspect of it too, which is the foundation of it all. Like Solomon, when he was the richest man, right? Whoever walked the face of this planet.
But even like behind his story, when he went to God and God asked him what would you like? He wanted wisdom to be able to direct and guide God's people according to God's will.
Yeah.
And going back to seeking first the kingdom and all these things will come, God said, well, since you didn't ask for all these other things,
there you go.
I'm going to give you that too.
Right, exactly. So mind frame, then he got messed up later on. That's all good.
Definitely.
But
I mean,
that's why I read.
I
read Proverbs. That's a big thing for me. Man, we went so far into the Bible. See, when you get there, man, I just can't let go sometimes.
It all works hand in hand, though. In all honesty, I mean, because from a principle standpoint, like with the earth, gravity, what comes up must come down.
True.
So there's spiritual principles too. And now people might be doing those principles, but they may not necessarily be in God, but they're still going to work. Right.
Because, it's the foundation of this world. Spiritual principles, whether that's why the Bible says that he gives gifts with no repentance. You can have gifts, you can have wisdom to do these things and not be in Christ, still get reward, but that doesn't mean that that the end result is but that's say that for a sermon. But like you mentioned before, the spiritual principles, it will manifest itself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think we talked about like everything. Establishing, building, repairing credit, just using biblical terms.
Definitely paying what you owe. Right. There, of course, from a credit bureau standpoint, there's algorithms that they look at as far as like credit cards, loans, lines of credit, student loans, home loans, car loans. So they all weigh differently.
Right.
But from a math standpoint, credit cards, if you stay below 30% of whatever it is that you owe between all of your credit card lines, that could jump your credit because it's all tiered in a certain category.
So even if you stay below 30% now and what you're doing now, that would affect your credit in a good way.
Yep.
What? I just learned something.
Staying below 30% shows you're low risk. Anything over that shows you're higher risk.
Right.
So having a maxed out credit card versus having a lower credit card, whether it's a $200 credit line or a $200,000 credit line, you're basically showing, okay, I have discipline to not spend everything that you're loaning me, and now I have the capacity to pay it back.
That makes sense.
However, from a trade line standpoint, and a trade line will be any of the ones that I just mentioned.
Right.
you kind of have to outweigh from a division standpoint. So having one bad trait line, which could give you, let's say, a 400 credit score.
Right.
Well, if you add 4 more good trait lines over time, now they're going to average that one in by 20% of all the other ones.
Oh, okay.
And so now you're building more credit history. So having 10 trait lines with one bad and the rest good makes your credit look a little bit better.
Oh, really?
More solid.
Oh,
because you're building credit history over time. So they're like, okay, he's had 10 trait lines, 9 of them are awesome.
Right.
One of them there was some trouble early on.
Right.
Nevertheless, if you pay what you owe, whether it be medical bills, whatever the case may be, a lot of times those people just want to talk to you. And so once you can talk to them, do settlements, pay it off, it can actually be removed from your credit report.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know that because they're not diligent in actually wanting to pay their debts.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So it stays on there.
Let me ask you a question. What about the people who are deep in debt and really just see I have no way out, little income? What type of advice would you give to them if they sat down in front of you? Like,
I mean, a lot of people follow Dave Ramsey. He's a great example and a great guy as far as things that you can do. I went to one of his seminars like over 10 years ago. I vaguely remember everything that he taught on, but basically saying don't live outside of your means.
Right.
Pay yourself. So when your check come in, you've already paid the government, pay God, and then pay yourself.
Right.
Basically. Right. And so that pay yourself is that saving however much you can spend. You spend a lot of money eating out every day.
Yeah.
So you can easily you can easily bank that. You know what I mean? You can bank that or cut that bill in half. And what you look at all your bills and say, okay, where can I cut back?
Right.
What can I live without for right now?
Right.
And so he was talking to this one guy on a hotline on Facebook recently, and the guy had like, I don't know, some odd $1 million in student loan debt. He's like, dude, what exactly did you go to school for? And he's like, well, you know, between me and my wife, we make about $500,000 a year.
Oh.
He's like, well, that debt should have been paid like yesterday. He's like, you need to live off ramen noodles for like the next 2 years, and you don't need to go eat out. You don't need to, but it's still that discipline, even though that was kind of, you know, him being funny, but that discipline, because technically, if you do make $500,000, there is no reason why you can't pay off, you know, $1 million in a certain time frame.
Even if you say, what, 50%, that's 50 grand.
Exactly.
Like, is that 50 grand?
Well, it would be $250,000.
Yeah, $250,000.
But you can still pay it in 4 years, you know, just depending on if you're faithful at it.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And not just blowing money to the wind.
Right, right. Do you think that a person's talent and gifts have a direct connection to what they bring in?
Not necessarily.
Income? Why?
Because a person could, I don't know, be choice in my words. A person could gain the world and lose their soul, so to speak.
Right.
So just like God gives gifts, so does the enemy.
Yeah.
So you don't know the background behind how people get what they get.
That's true. That's true.
But gain is no indication of any godliness just from that aspect.
That makes sense. The Bible says that you can't serve God and mammon. You love one and hate another. You know, mammon is a persona in the Bible, in that terminology, a persona of the spirit.
Like idolatry.
Yeah. I think that when you serve one God, which is mammon, you know, your character become destructive. And the gifts you have are destructive, and you begin to manipulate, you begin to act in fear, greed, and all this other stuff. But what about the gifts that God gives? You think that has a direct tie to, along with the gifts, along with the fruits of the Spirit, you think that has a direct tie to a person who can bring an income? Like, for instance, if a person is poor, have nothing at all, no income, is it okay for them to search, seek the Lord, of course, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and see what gifts He's given them to pretty much use those gifts to accumulate income or something?
I mean, yeah, to an extent. I guess it just depends on, like, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a case by case, but
yeah.
I mean, there are different situations in the Bible because it talks about how it's better to be poor and have a relationship with God than to be wealthy and not have a relationship. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, it just depends because we do have a free will, and so we can choose to do it God's way or not. So you could be a Christian and just yet be in a darkened state concerning certain things. Right. But yes, I do believe that God can give you power to get wealth because He said that He can. Right. So, like, let's, for example, some of the testimonies that I have. One, God has kept me in the banking industry, and He's blessed my mind to be able to articulate, so to speak.
Right.
You know, plus I'm passionate about it and I like it. Plus it helps because the area that I'm in is in the finance, which is helpful because he can use me at the ministry that I go to be able to educate and to be able to know the background area of that. You know what I mean? But I do think that people should do what they like.
True.
And that if they basically seek God and give it to God, that yes, He will bless and, you know, grow you in that because He wants you to venture out and, you know what I'm saying? To be successful.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. That's actually what we talk about in the Christ First Financial Study too. We use Crown Financial. You familiar with that? So it's like Dave Ramsey, then you got Crown Financial. So those two Christian, financial courses. Actually, the reason why I went with them because I started out reading their book back in 2000, right before I started with Wells. You know, I started with reading their book. But we actually talk about that too, you know, just the wisdom of God and then Him providing as well, you know, because I think we forget, I think we forget that at times we can't do it on our own, you know, and He set different provisions or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, but if you want to compare the world to one that belongs to God, you could look at a company like McDonald's, for example. They're open 24 hours a day because they're open 24 hours a day because they want to make that money.
Right.
Even on holidays. So you're like, okay, I don't have time to go home to my family. But then look at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
They're closed on Sundays and they close at 10, but they put God first.
And my stomach just
boom.
Yeah.
So He makes the difference. Look at Hobby Lobby. When I forgot whatever laws that came out,
right,
like with Obamacare or something like that, and the underlying behind that was that when you pay into Obamacare, it actually was money and funds that went towards abortions, which is clearly against the word of God.
Right.
So Hobby Lobby's like, I'm not doing that. We're going to pay the penalty, and then we're going to pay and provide a separate health care out of our own expenses. And I mean, I'm telling you, it was very steep, like how much they were paying. But then they went to court and got overruled in their favor, and then they were exempt, and the judge gave them an exemption where they no longer had to pay the fee.
And it was
that was a miracle.
Yeah, that was the heart of the company. God made way for them.
Exactly. They're like, we're not doing that because that's against our faith. So, I mean, you can see like the spiritual aspect of it, like, you know, how they put God first, boom. I mean, even look at Israel. Israel is a country that's known for being very innovative, and they come up with the most, you know, like new technology and everything.
Right.
And they're such a small country.
True.
And you're like, you got all these other countries out there, but yet they're excelling.
Right.
Because God.
Blessed, yeah.
So God is definitely the foundation.
So it's good to be in the favor.
Yeah. But I mean, again, for those who are not necessarily after or following after God, just from a principle standpoint, discipline is everything, education is everything, and so we should always be learning.
True.
And I forgot what who it was, but they basically talk about like the definition of insanity. If you do the same thing and expect a different result, well clearly that's not problem solving.
Right.
So you have to have some sort of problem solving, and you have to be dedicated to paying who you owe. That's just from a credit standpoint.
Right.
And then once you paid all your debts off and you're debt free, now you can start saving even more instead of throwing away money to interest. Why pay somebody else when you can pay yourself?
That's true, and pay yourself. And so I know I read Dave Ramsey too, and he mentioned a concept like once you pay off your credit card, you continue to pay, but pay yourself with the money that you would pay your credit card.
So pay the lowest debt first, or the one with the highest interest rate.
Yeah.
And just depending on like who else out there, who you guys meet with, I know like USAA, some of the different banks out there, they actually have like financial representatives that you can call in and actually talk to, who could advise you based on where you are.
Right.
You know, you say, I got this many credit cards, this one got a 26% interest, this one got a 5% interest.
Right.
These are loans, lines of credit. They may say, okay, well, you can either pay the smallest one off first, because now that that's free and clear, you can roll that money over somewhere else.
True.
Double up, pay that one off, and continue to snowball it.
Yeah.
Or you can pay the one with the highest interest off first. So if you got one with 26% interest versus 5%, well, clearly over here, the 5%, you're not paying that much in interest. It's going on principal. Hurry up and get this one paid so you're not throwing money away. Once that's paid, boom, now you can double up and pay off the one with the lowest interest rate.
Okay, so
it's all math, but it's all a strategy.
So one last question, because I know we've been here a minute, and I know you have to get out of here. And okay, so what about this on debt? So what about people who have debt collections? So what do you think about debt collections? You know, credit, of course, that haven't been paid and just went to debt collection. What is your point of view on that? How should they pay the debt? Because I know a lot of debt collectors,
yes, they should, because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
As far as debt collectors, a lot of times they blow your phone up because they want to talk to you.
Right.
And so if you don't address it, then they're going to keep calling.
Right.
And a lot of times they can even offer settlements. Now, I don't know how that affects staying on your credit report versus it coming off, but a lot of times they're just like, look, we want to talk to you because you owe us.
Right.
I mean, think about it. If somebody, let's say you loaned me $100,000 and I didn't pay you back, and then I just darted and left and went to, I don't know, India.
Yeah, we gonna find you.
So the right thing to do is you loan me money to pay you back.
Right.
And so looking at it from the perspective of if it was me that loaned someone money.
Right. So you think
how would I want somebody to treat me? At least communicate with me. You know what I mean? Like talk to me. We can work out a plan where you can get it paid and then boom, now you're free and clear. But don't just leave town.
Right. So you think just speaking with the debt collectors, that should be something that they should do. Just have a conversation.
Definitely. Talking to them and be like, okay, this is how much I make, this is what I can try to do, is there a way you guys can do a set, whatever. And then, making those payments, because sometimes they can let you make payments on it.
Right.
Sometimes they may want to give you a deadline and say, pay this by this date.
Right.
But at least if you're showing effort in making your payments, eventually once they're paid, they can be removed versus taking the route of bankruptcy because then that's going to be worse, you know what I mean? Now you can't qualify for a house or any of these other things, but it's not going to really help you, so.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we talked a lot. So that's a lot of information. I can't wait to put this out there. But that's it for today. I really appreciate you for coming out, Miss Noelle. And they can reach you through me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to get at Miss Carpenter, you definitely hit me up, and you can reach me on Facebook. That's at AD Robinson Inspires, and you can reach me at on Instagram. That's setting SETTIN _DA _tone, or just email me Anthony at adrobinsonfinancial.com. All right, you guys take it easy.
Bye.